Welcome to a little video where we're going to try to do an ILS approach to Northeast Philadelphia Airport in our Cessna 172. Our speed is down, so our autopilot just disengaged. Get this thing back in shape. And while that's happening, we'll take a look at our objectives here. Right now I have the ATIS information for Northeast Philadelphia, altimeter 3013, arriving and departing runway 24, which is what we want. We're going to switch to the Northeast Philadelphia tower frequency, and we'll show you on the local map what exactly is going on here. Okay, so using our approach plate for Northeast Philadelphia ILS frequency localizer runway 24, we have the frequency, which you need three things to have an automatic ILS capture. You need the localizer frequency. You need to be within range of the horizontal and the vertical elevation. We're going to go from the Robbinsville VOR, and then we will track out 284, radial 284, to Flitz intersection, and hopefully, well, we should be captured by the frequency when we hit this 240. We will need to be 2,100 feet, above 2,100 when we reach Flitz, and then when we capture the ILS frequency, it'll give us the horizontal, steer us to 240, and we should also capture glide slope automatically if we're within that range. And by the time we reach Borda, we will be at 2,000, and then it should, the localizer should take us down to the runway. If we were to miss the approach, we would climb and maintain 3,000, climb right turn to 3,000 to the Yardley VOR, and then hold at that position until further instructions. So what that looks, this is the official airport plate. What it looks like on X-plane would be, here's our plane. Above this red rose compass dial, you see, I can't show you a mouse, so bear with me. Right above that is our plane, and then we will head south. Plane is orange, and then we will head south to the Robbinsville VORTAC, which is indicated by a circular rose. Then we will turn right on that radial 284 to Flitz, which I'm trying to get to the middle of your screen for you. The Northeast Philadelphia KPNE airport is located. It's in the bottom left of the page, and that's the runway. It shows you runway 24 ILS frequency 111.1. So we are ready, and let's do this path here, see what happens. First thing we'll do is tune into the Robbinsville VOR frequency, which is 113.80. That's on our nav1, and then we will set our OBS to track to it. That's tracking away from it. We're going to set the OBS to track to it. Get that needle right in the middle. And there it is. And that is heading 190. Turn to 190. Let's slow this thing down a little bit. see on our GPS that we're tracking to Robbinsville. We should be there in 4.5 miles. Once we do that, we will track outbound at 284. Our elevation presently is around 3,300. We're going to try to get back down to, we need to be at 2,100, so we'll get down to 3,000 right now while we're thinking about it. When we hit 3,000, we'll hit the altitude button, which is on our radio stack for the autopilot, and then we'll re-engage autopilot. See the number change. Now we hit auto, and it should maintain that heading and elevation. Approaching Robbinsville. Then we will make our right turn at 284. Set this OBS to 284 when we get to Robbinsville. We will tune to 284 on the heading. Look at the OBS gauge, you see the needle flipping out because we're flying over the VOR. And as we track away from it at 284, you see the needle kind of stabilize a little bit. And we'll be tracking outbound. Gauge is indicating that we're to the left of the radial that we're looking for, so try to make that adjustment. You see that needle head closer to the center, and as we get to the center of that, we will turn to our 284. Have intercepted 284. Now we should be in a direct path towards the Flitz intersection. And we will descend and maintain, looking for 2100 that. Autopilot is disengaged. We've set the altimeter reading based on the ATIS terminal air service information provided. We have descending at roughly 700 feet per minute. We're going to lock it in when the altimeter dial reads 2100. And then turn the flight director back on, maintaining our present heading of radial 284 from Robbinsville. Okay, so we're still maintaining our present course. See that the Flitz intersection is, if you look down at the GPS, is the end of the pink line. And I will tune up the localizer frequency, because when we reach Flitz, we should be automatically turning towards the runway at 240. So let's see. I've tuned to the 111.1, and the CDI button down at the bottom here needs to be set to localizer, VLOC. And also, down in your radio stack, you need to have localizer and glide slope highlighted in yellow. That means it's armed, and when it reaches that frequency or the intercept course, the plane should automatically turn. It should turn to the left. Since I've changed the localizer frequency, you'll notice the OBS gauge up top no longer reads the Robbinsville VOR. I wonder if I tune that to nav2. I wonder if that would work. 113.8. It is tuned to nav2. Set that to 84. What do you know? It is working. So I have nav2 tuned to 113.8, the Robbinsville VOR, and that's reading on the middle OBS gauge. now that I've set it to 284. So we should approach Flitz in 7.2 nautical miles. You see the VOR above, or the OBS, the localizer came alive. We are underneath the glide slope indicated by the horizontal bar. That's white. And when the vertical white bar comes into the center circle, that's when we should see this thing start to turn by itself. And when the upper bar comes down, we will be captured by the glide slope. Capture the glide slope from, you have to be within the vicinity of the right elevation, but if you're underneath of it and holding your elevation, it will capture you as long as your horizontal is correct. When you're captured, you'll see at the bottom the localizer and glide slope yellow buttons will turn green, indicating that you've captured the glide slope or the localizer frequency. Nice day in Northeast Philly. Roughly 4 miles out, and the turn will be 240. We could load up the Northeast Philadelphia Airport as the current waypoint. Activate leg, yes. And then set this OBS, and we'll set that angle to 240. Okay, so as I turn the OBS gauge, you can see the pink line moving on my GPS. So if I set that to 240, which is our runway heading, when we intercept that, the plane should turn left. That's the course that we wanted. good to check back with ATIS. Make sure the information hasn't changed. Altimeter 3013, arriving and departing runway 24. Okay. Weather's clear, visibility. Back to the tower. We don't have communication with the tower, but we did dial in the frequency, and we should announce our presence. However, being that I took a pop-up clearance from the air, ATC isn't aware of my situation in this simulation. Watch this needle come in to the left of my little hand here on the OBS gauge. This needle's coming closer to the center. And when this needle, the vertical needle, gets to that center circle, we'll make our turn. It should be an automatic turn. See the localizer button at the bottom is turned green. That means we've captured it, and so when it hits 240, there's our turn. It's happening automatically. Look at the OBS gauge. I'm going to set my heading to 240 because if we disengage the autopilot, I want that set up. Now we should see the runway straight ahead. And now we're just waiting for glide slope. Whoop, there's the PAPI lights, 4 reds. That means we're too low. That's expected. We're maintaining 2100. When we get captured here, glide slope will illuminate green, and we will be descending towards the runway. We're waiting for this vertical bar, the white vertical bar on the OBS gauge, to start coming down. Crossed Flits. We look at our map here. That is right here. We're at 2100. We're on 240 headed for Borda, which is right here. Oop. See Borda on our GPS screen down the lower left. Waiting to see movement. In that glide slope needle. We're still a little bit low. There's our runway. Border we wanted to be at 2000, so we should disengage for a second here and get down to 2000. captured by the localizer. Now we're going to maintain 2,000. Reset that autopilot. The jogs are, I should have had the stick. I should have been driving the plane a little smoother, and then when I click this thing back to auto, I shouldn't be jogging around like that. This is mainly for demonstration on localizer capture. So we're now at 2,000. That's what the flight approach chart says. We're still waiting for this needle. Landing lights are on. Here comes our needle. It's very slow, but you can notice its proximity. It's heading down, and you can also see the runway lights, the PAPI lights. In the distance, they're red and white. We're looking for 2 whites, 2 reds. And we are now going to expect the glide slope light at the bottom go from yellow to green. When that happens, we will be on the correct glide slope and ready for automatic landing. We could do it manually, but this is all an autopilot exercise here. Get slowed down. There's our green light, and we are heading down. I didn't touch anything. So now we're just going to slow it down. Dial in some flaps. When we get close to the runway, get it slowed down to about 60. Be on the ground safely. Always good to get a general idea of where we're going to turn once we're on the ground. I don't know where the general aviation parking section is. Looks like we'll just get off the runway and turn right. Go from there. Of course I could check a map, but and why not? We should do that. the airport diagram, and we're coming on runway 24. Gonna land. There's the, let's see here, general aviation. There's nothing labeled here. Jet center. I'm going to assume it's well, it's either these hangars down here, Atlantic hangar, or an Augusta hangar. I guess it depends where you're going. So we'll get off this runway, probably taxi on A. We'll get off to the left, go to the Atlantic hangar. One last opportunity to check our ATIS, make sure that the altimeter is set properly. 3013, yes, that agrees. Sometimes, most of the time I choose to, when I get close to the runway, I'll disable the autopilot and finish the touchdown manually. Now we have our PAPI lights of white, white, red, red. That means we're on the correct slope. So we're ready to land this plane. We're going to slow it down. Dial in some flaps and let the autopilot trim the plane out. While the flaps come in, the ILS frequency is still trying to get us back in the 3-degree glide slope. Full flaps now. Bring the throttle up a bit in case we have a condition of a missed approach. You have the ability to accelerate, start climbing. Never know why you might have a missed approach. Could be a mechanical failure or obstructions on the runway. It could be deer, birds, dogs, people, machinery, who knows. Or you might not be able to see the runway. You might be coming out of the clouds, and if you can't see the runway, you shouldn't be landing. Runway landing elevation is 121, so we're just about there. I'll disable it. Very good landing. A little off the center line, but that's okay. On the ground looking for taxiway A. Flaps back up. Taxiway A right here. Taxi light is on, landing lights are off. And we're here. Welcome to Northeast Philadelphia. There's our hangar off to the right. It's a big hangar. And here comes the deer. Deer nuts under a buck. Beer nuts are $2.50. Brakes are on. Nav lights are off, taxi's off, beacon's off, fuel pump's off. Turn off the avionics, alternator, battery. And that concludes our flight. Good day.